Before we get into today's video, I want to mention that I am a huge fan of Simon Whistler's work. The two biggest series I watch by him are Biographics and Today I Found Out. I am attempting to make this video very much in the same style that he did. However, as you can tell, I don't really have the research team, the editing department, or a lot of other things that Simon Whistler has, but I will do my best to replicate it wherever I can. I hope you enjoy, and if you're watching this, Simon, I hope you'll take this as a bit of a suggestion for your potential next biographics video. Let's get started. I figured it would be a good idea to start with this photo. It still amazes me that this newspaper article came out in the 1950s. The height of heavy Christian morals, members of the KKK were still riding around, and being considered sympathetic to communism was a very serious offense that oftentimes led to people getting fired or committing suicide. Yet in it all, this World War II veteran completed her transition, and this is something that's celebrated? That is the topic of today's video, the life of Christine Jorgensen. Her story begins in the Bronx in 1926. Even at a young age, the young Jorgensen had problems fitting in the typical male society. She never really liked wearing typical boy clothes and was often very jealous of her older sister Dorothy for being able to flaunt around in beautiful dresses and just wanting a piece of that for herself. In her teens, things started to get even more complicated. Unlike her peers, she was more interested in being a woman rather than being with women. This jealousy for women got even worse by the time she finished high school. However, she was able to find an outlet for her jealousy, photography. After graduating high school, she would then take a few courses in higher education just for this purpose. In 1945, she was drafted in the military service. Not having a very strong build and doing abysmally on her physical examination, instead of being sent to the battlefield, she was sent to do clerical work. She was later discharged the following year. At this, Christine went back to photography, but still couldn't shake the idea that something was off. While she was doing her best trying to make a life for herself, she would come across various research topics of what we today call gender dysphoria, and even found possible cures for this. In 1950, she traveled to Denmark in order to begin her transition. Being very much in the heyday of transgender medicine, Denmark was one of the few countries on Earth that could offer such treatments. Her regimen included what we call today hormone replacement therapy, as well as several types of surgeries to make her appear more feminine. She worked very close with a doctor named Christian Hamburger, and as a way to be able to thank him for everything that he did for her, she took that as inspiration for her own name, Christine. In 1952, there was a bit of a press leak over in the United States. While she wanted to keep this transition secret, there were a lot of people that wanted to ask her a lot of questions about what was going on here. When she came back to the United States fully healed back in 1953, she became an overnight celebrity. Newspapers, as well as the general public, just couldn't get enough of her. They wanted to know everything. At first, she was rather off-put by this, even saying this is just too much. But after a little while, she learned to kind of like the fame. While this newspaper article that started this video gives the impression of a very accepting United States at the time, she still had a lot of critics. People that would ask her very insensitive questions, bully or harass her, and even ask for rather dubious things. However, she didn't care though, as she was absolutely happy for the first time in her life. And on top of that, for all the critics she also had a lot of fans. She often spent times giving lectures at colleges as well as other institutions. Things got pretty muddled for her as she attempted marriage to her boyfriend. However, her birth certificate still said male. Being the 1950s, gay marriage was not legal at that point, so unfortunately they just had to stick with being good romantic partners. While she had her haters, she also had her fans. She would give lectures at colleges. She would later write her own autobiography. I've still yet to read that myself. If I could find it for a reasonable price, I'd be very interested in reading it. In fact, her story even made it into the theaters in the 1970s. When she died of cancer, May of 1989, she would leave behind an inspiring story for the future. So I hope that you liked that video. While I'm still here, perhaps maybe even check out the real Simon Whistler. If you like this format, this is basically how he conducts his other videos. However, it's a bit more professional. As you can tell, this is pretty amateur. Until next time, keep having fun.